Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us here today. I am so excited about this next conversation as we dive into microdosing and the Microdosing Method Program. We have a really special guest with us today who will be sharing her journey. But before we get into it, I love to introduce our collaborator, Reverend Leah Linder. Leah is an ordained minister. She's a trained psychedelic facilitator with SETA Seminary. And additionally, she has a private naturopathic medical practice. Leah, I will pass it over to you to introduce our guest.
Thank you so much, Jamie. And I am thrilled to be here as well. I want to introduce you to one of our SETA Seminary members, Nico, who works at a nonprofit that focuses on whole person health and really in that education realm as well. And that brings this integrative and conventional medicine together. And she's going to be sharing her personal experience with microdosing. So, Nico, to start off with, thanks so much for being here. Can you share a little bit about yourself and your background, and then maybe like how you first came to the practice of microdosing?
Yeah, absolutely. And great to be here as well. So, I went to school for philosophy and statistics, and I always have really enjoyed kind of the dichotomy and taking two things that seem very opposite, kind of putting them together. And when I found out about the nonprofit that I work at, it was that same kind of thing. It's this idea where you take very holistic, ancient, traditional practices and then the new scientific evidence informed things that we have that are cutting edge, and you mesh them together because we live in a world where things are a little bit polarized these days, and there's benefits to both. And so health is something that we all should collaborate and work together on. And when I found out about that, I was elated. And so that's kind of been my passion. I'm pretty interested in mountaineering, outdoor activities. I just became a yoga instructor. I went out to Peru for 3 weeks and got to be in the Sacred Valley. And my experience as far as microdosing, when I was younger, I used mushrooms recreationally, and you have very different experiences. Most of them are very positive and lovely. But about 2 years ago now, I met this woman named Reishi, and she was hosting an all women's mushroom retreat where we learned all about mushrooms as a whole, went foraging, understood kind of the history and things behind them. And we had a ceremony, and it was my first time ever intentionally using mushrooms in more of like a held space and setting. And it was such a life-changing experience. And I realized that that was something that can be facilitated by myself. It's your intention and it's your perspective and the way that you approach it. And I ran into Leah and Pam about a year ago, I think, at one of our events, and started chatting with them and found out that they started the seminary. And I immediately was interested. That night, I went back and looked up all the information online, and I think I made that first order within a week. So it's been quite a journey, but I love it. And it's such a beautiful way to begin your healing process because it starts from wherever you're at.
So
Mhm.
good for sharing all that with us. I'm just curious, Nicole, when you made the decision to participate with the ceremony with the psilocybin and whatnot, how did you get from that 0 to 1, right? Because there's a lot of narratives around mushrooms, psilocybin, things like that. And oftentimes a lot of people have a lot of fear
Mhm.
um, around that medicine too. So I'm curious if you can just kind of talk to us a little bit about that process and how that was for you.
Yeah. So I think the big part, which is something you know a lot about, is educating yourself. And so you get to do some research on your own and talk to people with the experiences. And you realize that, like, while sometimes, maybe not in microdosing settings, but in like a little bit larger of doses, things can, they can get pretty deep. But that's stuff that's already inside of you, and that stuff you're already, dealing with, just not at the surface level sometimes. And so for me, it was understanding that it's not making anything new or scary for me. It's just kind of showing me things that are already maybe holding me back, or that I'm afraid of, or past traumas or something. And it's not bringing me into any new scary situation. It's just helping me deal with things that I maybe haven't been dealing with. And so I think that was a really important thing for me to know, that I'm already capable of handling it all because I'm handling it right now, maybe just not as consciously. And I think also just surrounding yourself with people that make you feel safe. Sometimes there can be this fear that you may act differently or say something, or you don't know how you're going to respond. And so knowing that you're in a safe environment to respond in whatever way your body needs to really kind of brings you at ease, and I think can help you go with it. And just knowing that everybody else is going to be going through their own process as well. And so you're not alone in it. Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think that that's so beautiful, is that really speaking about that intentional community and
Mm-hmm.
recognizing that who you surround yourself with and the people that you interact with is such a huge part of how we navigate this space,
Mm-hmm.
the space of being human, because we are social creatures. And so, regardless if we're on journey or not, whether that be microdosing or a bigger journey, I think that it's so important to witness that if you have a safe community that you can lean on, and they're able to say, "Oh yeah, me too. Like I'm also
Mm-hmm.
going through my own stuff, and I'm here to be totally transparent about the fact that I'm also struggling, or I'm also dealing with, the trials and tribulations of what it is to be human." That creates a safety net, and that creates an intentional space where we can all feel connected, not only to each other, but to greater source and our process of what it is to be human. What Setas pairings have you tried?
Yeah, so the first one I tried was the focus pairing,
Mhm.
and I loved it. I found this journal. I bought it for Peru, but my very first entry in here is about me waking up from a procrastination nap, and it said I got a package, and I went to the door and it was my pairing, and I was like, "Oh, but perfect timing," because for me, I love learning, I love doing things, but my brain can go in 18 different directions all at once, which can be a superpower sometimes. But when you just want to work and get some things done, it held me back a little bit. And so it was just quite funny to go back and read that. And I was, doing everything I could to avoid this like big task at hand. And then I got the pairing and I was like, oh yeah, it's all happening at the right time. And yeah, I started taking it right away with the protocol, 1 day on, 1 day off, 2 days on. And I remember really enjoying work for like the first time in a while, where I was like actually pretty excited to go, because I just had like slightly different perspectives on how I wanted to approach it. And I think one of my favorite things is that I just noticed like this slight mindset change. Instead of being like, oh, I have to go and work, it's like, ooh, how how can I show up to work today? What kind of exciting new ways can I experience this? And I think that's something that I've noticed in the other pairing too, which is the introspection one, was that everyday activities that you start to do, there's this slight shift in going from, oh, I have to do this, to like, oh, I get to do this and I can choose how I want to make it feel. And I think a really good example, I started taking the introspection pairing less than a week ago, and I was driving from Whidbey Island, where I am now, back to Seattle. I had to go pick up stuff and see some friends, and I was just kind of annoyed because we have this really beautiful old Chevy truck, but it eats gas like no other. And my partner wasn't able to come with me, and so I was like, okay, I have a 2-hour drive back to Seattle. And, it cost me like $60 to drive back to Seattle. And that's what I was thinking the day before. And then I was like, well, this is exciting. Like when I got into the car, it was like I've been so busy moving and working, and I just started a mountaineering course, and my brain had just been going and going and going. And I was like, wow, I am being forced to not do anything for 2 hours, but to just sit and like be and relax. And I was like, that's actually pretty great. And I remember that drive, like I was listening to good music. I was sending like a voice message to one of my friends just about catching up and how much I miss them. And it was just so interesting how the day before I was so not looking forward to this. And then the day that I was microdosing, I was like, oh, this is actually really great. And this is what my body needs. And instead of getting angry about it, I can almost take it as like a piece of grace and like, thank you for letting me get to rest my brain for 2 hours. And so those are like the subtle shifts that I think I personally have noticed the most is just a shift in the way that you view these mundane things that you go through every day.
That's so beautiful. What I heard you say is that not only was it able to give you a different perspective on your creativity and your productivity, but also giving you an opportunity to view a situation from a different realm and have more gratitude in the daily life of like what we all do as far as shucking and jiving and
Mm-hmm.
what to happen to make our livelihoods go on. So that's beautiful.
And just for clarification, you didn't microdose while you were driving, right? It was before.
Yeah, I was driving at like 9 o'clock at night and I had taken this far earlier. It's just the way that you view things that you have going on. My point was I had just started this recently and I wasn't taking anything and then I started and yeah, it was lovely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Such
Beautiful.
beautiful insight that you're sharing with us. And it's really clear that, this microdosing journey has been really meaningful and impactful for you. And I'm just curious beyond that, when you're integrating these experiences, these lifestyle tools can be really supportive to helping you achieve longer and lasting results, right? And so curious, what other wellness practices or support have you brought in as part of the microdosing journey?
Yeah. I think one big thing that was one of my intentions of something I wanted to really cultivate more of was writing and documenting kind of how I felt day to day. There's been many times in my life where I've thought back on certain months or years and I don't exactly know how I was feeling or what I was going through. And I think microdosing can have you be so much more introspective and notice these subtleties and also in what you have changed and have done, but also kind of where you see yourself growing. And so just writing a single page in a notebook a day, and it doesn't have to be about anything specific, but I think that has really helped me document kind of how I'm doing and where I'm going and where my mind and my heart is focused on at that time. Another big one has been yoga. Like I said, I became an instructor in November of last year, and meditation is great. And it's something that's been hard for me to sit still sometimes. And in my eyes, yoga is a form of dynamic meditation, so to say, where your body gets to move and your mind kind of gets to slow down a lot and sometimes just completely clear. And so that has been really wonderful to kind of help me slow down, let my brain have a break. And there's so many different insights and things that come to you when you're in these like more meditative and flow states. And that one has been really, really special. And it's also just a time for you to be like, I'm away from my phone, I'm away from my desk. It's just me in my room. And even if I just sit on the floor and like lay down in different positions, it's still really, really helpful. And so I think those two things have been really, really impactful. And then just I've been cooking more. And I think that that's been a really fun one. You have these self-limiting beliefs like, oh, I can't cook. And so you don't allow yourself to try new things and get better and fail. And I've been so much more open to just seeing what happens. And if it's something's not perfect, that's okay, because I'm not a chef. And that's how you learn these things. So I think those are kind of the three different areas that have really helped me is documenting yoga and allowing myself to cook in
Mm.
whatever ways the meals want to show up.
Oh, I love that so much. And I love that you're taking all of this dynamic aspects of your livelihood and integrating that with microdosing. That
Mhm.
it's not just about microdosing, it's these other things that you're bringing in that are creating what I hear from you, this long-term change of I'm
Mhm.
orienting to my person in a different way.
Yeah.
So that's so lovely. So, Nico, thank you so much for sharing. So, as you know, Psychable and Seta Seminary have partnered together to create this awesome program called the Microdosing Method. And it is an educational program designed to explore not only microdosing, but also the tools for wellness, like Nico was talking about for personal growth. And the added benefit is that you get these integration practices that are so important: nutrition and clean air and clean water and somatic body experiences.
Mhm.
And journaling is like a huge part of that too, to create and solidify this long term meaningful change. And so, from your perspective on what you've gone through with your own journey, as well as with microdosing, would you be willing to share your thoughts about recommending this approach to others?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said at the beginning, I think one of the best ways to ease yourself when you're trying new things is to educate yourself. And so, this is why these types of collaborations are so important, because you want the experiences and the offerings so you can really integrate them and you can try new things and meet new people. But it's also really great to have the support and the education to kind of fall back on and remind yourself of whenever you need that reminder. And I couldn't be happier. My life has been substantially just a little bit more joyous. Like at all times, I am just in a little bit more positive of a mood. I'm able to regulate myself so much more. And no matter what your goal is, I think that's the beauty of a program like this, is that it's your journey and it's facilitating that. And so I couldn't recommend it more. I think it's wonderful and I'm really glad that I get to be a part of it. Yeah, one thing I was gonna say is that I talked about how much this has helped me regulate my stress and help me just be a little bit more joyous. But I think a really good physical marker of that is I used to get cold sores constantly, like since I was a child. I was really good at handling my stress externally, but it would show up in my body. And then I recently started getting, not recently, like 2 years ago, started getting rashes all over my body. And since I started microdosing, and I didn't realize this until you asked me to join on this call, and I was talking to my partner, and I was like, I haven't gotten a single cold sore or any rash or outbreak in like 7, 8 months now. And I'm just now seeing that the correlation could very well be that I am just learning how to regulate myself more. And, these things that we go through in everyday life that can really, really, really stress you out and ruin your sleep and make you act out toward the people that you love, it helps you learn how to regulate that. And I'm like seeing very physical results from that. And so that's a huge thing that kind of goes by. I'm not even actively trying to work on that. And it just happens from all the other beautiful benefits. So I wanted to share that because I think that that's a really good reminder for me that these things that we do internally can show up very physically in the positive ways as well.
Amazing. Wow. Nico, this has been such a beautiful, insightful conversation. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you both.
Yeah, we so appreciate you sharing your journey with us, your experience. And also thank you to our collaborator, Seta Seminary, and Reverend Leah Linder for her time and her expertise. Thank you for everyone who's joined us in this beautiful conversation. If you would like to learn more about the microdosing method, we invite you to check out the link in the description to join the program. Enrollment is currently open. Once the cohort is filled, if you didn't make it to this one, we will add you into our waitlist for the next cohort. But yeah, this is an opportunity to really learn how to integrate these practices into your wellness journey. Thank you all again for being here with us. Thank you again, Nico and Reverend Leolinder. Take care and many blessings.
Blessings.